Apple TV Plus Foundation series took a heartbreaking direction after Gall learned the fate of Rake Foss, the man responsible for Hari Seldon's murder. The psychohistorian whose ability to predict the future drives the entire Foundation story, and Hari Seldon was murdered before his exile had even begun. The shocking end of Foundation Episode 2 left the Terminus colonists reeling, though they were committed to following Hari's mission, albeit shaken by the loss of their hero and mentor. Isaac Asimov's novels span a millennium, and David Goyer's Foundation follows suit. Foundation Episode 3 avoiding showing the immediate consequences of Hari's death, instead jumping forward several decades to a time when the Foundation was well established on Terminus and back on Trantor. The Emperor had hoped Hari Seldon and his prophecies had been consigned to history. What they did not expect, though, was for Hari's protege Gall Dornick to emerge from cryogenic suspension, awakening just at the time of the first Seldon crisis that had the potential to shape the future of the galaxy. According to the Empire's public records, Rake refused to give a reason for the murder of Hari Seldon. The most likely reason is, of course, that he was obeying Hari's own orders. The psychohistorian's calculations had presumed he would be killed by the Emperor and his followers exiled to Terminus, but Foundation's psychohistory as a scientific discipline is unable to accurately predict the actions of individuals, and instead the Emperor chose to spare his life. It's reasonable to assume Hari believed the Foundation needed him to serve as a martyr, resulting in an almost religious zeal that would sustain the project over the decades. Thus, he pushed Rake to do the deed, originally intending his foster son to then leave the Foundation in a cryopod that would keep him in suspended animation until the first Seldon crisis. That plan fell apart when Gall Dornick walked in at the moment Hari had just been killed, and Rake, believing his lover would be implicated in the murder, sent her out in the pod instead. Hari Seldon had established a mortality directive, the imperial equivalent of a will that dictated what should be done with his body after death. After a funeral ceremony, Hari's body was ejected into space in a capsule of his own design. Rake was judged guilty of Hari's murder, and in accordance with the laws of the Empire the colonists passed a death sentence. Rake Foss was executed, blasted out of an open airlock. As he faced death, Rake delivered his final words to the camera monitoring his execution, words intended not for the colonists, but for Gall, who he knew would eventually look at the footage. "I know it's hard," he said. "I know what I've done seems incomprehensible, but you can't lose faith in the plan. Ever. You can still solve a puzzle, even with a piece missing. He, of course, is the piece of the puzzle that is now missing. He was the one who was supposed to be in cryogenic suspension for a decade, and then go on to perform a specific role in accordance with Hari Seldon's plans, but now that responsibility falls to Gall Dornick. Though Gall does not know it, she has been awoken at the time of the first Seldon crisis, with the fate of the Foundation hanging in the balance. Fortunately, she is probably the only woman who could possibly be up to the task, because she's the only one who has come close to understanding Hari Seldon's psychohistory. She can interpret his prophecies and figure out the truth.